Hey folks, my name's Travis and I wanted to introduce you to Provision, a new specialty market that we opened up at the Pasquale's on East Washington Avenue. So we're a place that you can pick up some of your Pasquale's favorites, salsas, chips, dips, sauces, prepared meal kits, and other prepared foods, as well as grocery items to complete your taco night or an Italian dinner, pastas, pasta sauces, and of course spirits, margarita supplies, craft beer, local, imported. Put together some gift sets for holiday time. Local treats from folks like Gail Ambrosius and Nutcrack. Yeah, we're just hoping to become a nice neighborhood spot when you're stopping in for a meal or live in the neighborhood and need something to bring to a dinner party or just finish Taco Tuesday. So we hope to see you soon.
Wow, look at those cups up there. This place is so pretty.
Hey, Madison, it is Chelsea DeCane-Jarabic with the Cap Times here. I'm so used to saying that. I'm off script tonight, so let's see how this goes. We are welcome you all to Cooking with the Cap Times. We have got an in-person audience here tonight and about 120-ish at home, I think, this time around. Welcome, everyone. Liz Kirkland, our pastry chef with Madison Sourdough, is going to be making a delicious cake, and Lindsay, our food editor, will be on in a second. I'm just here to present some wonderful messages from our sponsor support who helped make this video series possible. So first, we want to thank Provision Market by Pasquale's Cantina. That is the newly opened Provision Market on East Washington Avenue. You can stop by, get some food before the Packer game, before they win, win the Super Bowl, all of that stuff. Stop by and get your stuff. Delicious chips. I just went and got some Gail Ambrosius chocolates and stuff. 4 gifts that I proceeded to eat myself.
Wonderful.
So I'll have to go back to Provision Market. They're our presenting sponsor. So go to their website, check them out on East Wash. Kessenich, where we are this evening, is our official kitchen sponsor. You can shop like a chef at Kessenich. It's open to the public. Head to their website to learn about hours and more info about Kessenich. And tonight we are supported by Breckenridge Brewery, their Christmas ale, so festive. We hope you got some Christmas ale to drink for tonight's viewing. We're also going to be giving away a couple 12-packs to viewers at home. So we'll drop a link in the chat where you can enter to win some Christmas ale. You got to be 21 or over to win. Liz, come on. We also want to say that if you're going to post about tonight's event on social media, please tag the Cap Times. Delicious cake making. Yay. There's probably some fun in the kitchen happening that we want to see. And finally, we are in the middle of our end-of-year membership drive at the Cap Times. So we are supported by Cap Times members who give any amount to support our newsroom. We hope you make a contribution tonight. We'll drop that link in the chat. You can go to membership.captimes.com. And do that, which is super cool, right, Lindsay?
Yes.
Yes.
It's very cool. I was thinking, oh my gosh, we should have done something with, like, if you become a member tonight, you can have some cake. Like,
Okay.
We'll send you a slice of cake.
Yes,
Yeah.
if you become a member and say why you became because you're watching Cooking with the Cap Times, again, you can give any
I will
amount
totally make more cake.
on this pledge drive. Yes, we'll get you some cake as a thank you. I think we're about $10,000 shy of our goal, so we're coming up to the wire.
Yeah.
We'll do anything. We'll make
Nice.
tons of cake.
Awesome.
All right, that's all I've got. I'm going to pass it off to Lindsay, who is one of Wisconsin's foremost food writers and critics, and Liz Kirkland. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Fantastic.
Chelsea.
Thank you.
Hello.
Awesome.
Hello.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, thank you
This
so
is
much for being
so
here.
exciting. It's so wonderful.
This is going to be really fun. I am so glad that you were willing to do something festive.
Okay, I couldn't be happier that you, Lindsay, reached out to me. She's like, can you do something for the holidays? Like, can you just give me a little something festive? And so excited. First thing I thought about was a beautiful cake. And I said, yeah, of course. So I'm so happy to be here representing Madison Sourdough.
Absolutely.
And making a beautiful cake for you guys.
So can you tell us really quick a little bit about how you started baking, like how you got into baking?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually not a professional baker at all. I didn't study, I didn't go to school. I was a hobbyist. I just was so passionate about it growing up, loved it, and I actually toyed with the idea for quite a while about going to pastry school. And I just reached out to a lot of professionals, professional bakers, and I said, is it worth it? Is it worth the expense of this program? And I was looking at a program in Chicago, quite expensive, and they all said, just get your foot in the door. Just learn on the job, and I promise you, you're gonna learn just as much on the job as you would going to pastry school. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna dive in, and I got a job at Madison Sourdough, and that was my first professional experience in the food industry.
Before you guys go further,
Okay.
we have to say that somebody just made an almost $500 contribution,
Yay!
to a Cap Times. And they said that they enjoy cooking with the Cap Times.
Yay! We
That's
will make cake for you. We love you.
Like Chris Murphy, who you mentioned, messaged that and had like goosebumps. I was like, wow, that's amazing.
Are they asking for a slice of cake?
Because we will give them cake.
Yeah, because we will
He
get
said,
them a
I
slice
enjoy
of
cooking
cake.
with the Cap Times series.
That's great.
I like this person very much.
That's awesome. Very, very great. Yeah, so let's get started.
Yes.
There is lots of elements to this cake.
Yeah, we just
And
need-
I know you all, I'm sure you all have looked over the recipe. If you're at home, you're trying to make it yourself. Did you guys get a recipe as well that you looked over? Okay, awesome.
Do you start with dry or?
So I always start with dry.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so in starting with dry, I'm going to take my bowl and I'm going to tear it out.
So just zeroing out the
I'm
scale.
zeroing out the scale.
Yeah.
So that means that when I start to add my dries, this bowl is at 0 and it's only measuring the flour that I'm putting in here.
So I will say the volume measurements that you all are seeing on this recipe, if you're looking at the recipe, I joked that I was in math hell.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I'm so
I like struggled through it, and I played music for myself, but I used something online called AquaCalc. So if you are actually like doing translation, it's not like water, like everything is water, 8 ounces is a cup kind of thing. Different ingredients have different densities. So I was trying to be very, like cognizant of that when I was
for
doing
sure,
the translation,
for sure.
right? So like, for example, the canola oil and the sugar, like it's the same number of grams, but it's the different amount of volume.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, I have all of our dries here. I have our all-purpose flour, I have our cocoa powder, salt, and baking soda. And I have to say, when I am at home, or at work even, I don't sift out a lot of my dries.
Yeah, a lot of my grandma's recipes
cheat.
have you sifting stuff together.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like we have to do that as much now. Like flours are much more, they're not as
Yes.
don't know,
So
coarse as they
exactly.
were?
The times that I do sift, I'm gonna sift for all of you right now. It's special. But the times that I do sift are, and now this is great that I sifted. You can kind of see some chunks at the end here. My dries are out of the way, and I'm gonna move on to creaming our butter and sugar.
I would just like to point out that this is your KitchenAid that you brought, yes?
Yeah.
Because she travels with the KitchenAid.
I do a lot usually. I actually have half a kitchen in my car at all times. So,
I live. My mom has one like this. It's like a little bigger than mine. Mine's a little bit smaller. And hers goes up, yeah.
Yeah. So I have one at home that flips up. It's a little smaller. Real nice and cute for the home kitchen. This is professional. This is the commercial.
This way even more.
Oh yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. You can.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, use a hand mixer at home. Like, if you don't have one of these, they're expensive. You don't need one. Get yourself a hand mixer. This here is about 200. I didn't even end up measuring in the end.
See, I feel
didn't
better
measure
about my
in the end.
choices.
Because eggs in general are about 50 grams per egg, and so if I need about 200, this recipe calls for 195. grams. And so if I need 200, I'm, dividing that by 50, and that gives me 4. So I have my 4 eggs. I'm adding them one at a time, and I always have my hand on the toggle here for speed. I'm adjusting it constantly. So what I'm looking for is that each egg is getting incorporated well. If I were to add all these eggs at once, that butter and sugar mixture would start to separate, and it just would never really come back together well. So it's important to do it one at a time. And it's also important to scrape. Right now I don't need to because the butter is kind of not worked around the wall right now. That butter sugar mixture, it'll get there.
It's very light in color.
It's gonna warm up, but yeah, it's really
yellow.
light in color, and that's what you're looking for creaming your butter and sugar. You want it to be really light before you move on to your next step. Okay, so I am adding in my dries now, and in the recipe here, I think I had you guys doing adding in dries and then wets, kind of a bit simultaneously. I'm adding in my dries first, and then I'm gonna stream in my wets. And I had you, I think I had you doing it in three stages. Not necessary. This is we might do that at work when we're doing really large production, and so I'm so used to doing 3 different additions of our dries and wets, but because this is such a small amount, cut it in half. So let me see here. I'm gonna combine all of my wets real quick. I have oil, and so scaling out liquids is the same as scaling out dries, and so I have 195 grams of canola oil. So all I did is I took this, it was empty, and I tared it out to 0, and I added my oil here. So this is 195. This is 195 of brewed coffee. And I did put in the 10 grams of vanilla extract. You can kind of see, I don't know if you guys can tell, maybe I'll elevate it a little bit, but you can see that they're not the same volume, right? Okay, so the density is different, so you do, you do need to scale out, and that works really well. So I was going to combine these.
If you have canola, can you use grapeseed, avocado,
absolutely,
coconut?
Absolutely, and that's not going to make a big difference at all.
It might have a flavor difference, like coconut wood, for example.
Yeah, coconut wood.
Olive oil would.
Coconut wood, olive oil for sure. You can get some really light olive oil, which is nice.
Yeah.
Nice to bake with. Or you can make an olive oil cake, which is so great. We have a beautiful olive oil cake, which is one of my favorite recipes at Madison Sourdough. I feature it a lot. I always have it in the case, and I'm constantly changing the flavors that I'm pairing with it. And so right now we have a lemon olive oil cake with a lemon lavender curd.
So good.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
Someone did ask online,
Yeah.
could you explain the different types of cocoa powders?
Yeah, oh my gosh, absolutely. So I call for the Dutch cocoa powder here, and I was realizing after reviewing that it's not really all that necessary. Okay, I prefer the Dutch a lot of times because it's usually it's a Ghirardelli brand, and it's just to be honest, it's just better quality than Hershey's. But I guess the process of Dutch, I might be wrong, but I think there's some process that it it alkalines the.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
It's something about,
I read about this and then I forgot.
I did too. I read about it. I was like, oh, I wonder why I actually use Dutch. But what you'll see, what I do remember in my reading, is that a lot of times you will use, it'll call for a Dutch processed cocoa powder with baking powder when you're using recipes with baking powder.
Instead of baking soda.
Instead of
which is
baking
alkaline,
soda,
yeah.
which is alkaline. So there is some science behind that. So this recipe you can actually use just like a regular cocoa powder.
Because you do have baking soda in it.
Because I have baking soda in it, right? And so it's not gonna ruin the recipe at all if you have the Dutch process, if you don't have the Dutch process. So when I'm baking at home, I am using whatever in my cabinet. So if a recipe calls for Dutch process and I don't have it, it's not the end of the world. My recipe's still gonna turn out just fine. Use what you have. Please, 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 use what you have. I promise those minor adjustments, not the end of the world. It's not gonna fully change your recipe here.
It smells really good.
Okay, it smells so good.
It just smells like
And
butter
this is
and
like
cocoa and
one of
vanilla.
the reasons I make this cake all the time too. This is my favorite because it smells to me like that pudding, that chocolate pudding you would like
It kind of looks
get
like
as a
chocolate
kid at
pudding,
home.
too.
Yeah.
Want another beer?
Great. Cool, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Are you okay?
You have two 8-inch cake pans here, yes?
2 8-inch. Yep.
Yeah, here at Kessenich, I checked, they have 7-inch pans and they have 9-inch pans. So if you don't have an 8-inch pan, do you just adjust the amount of time, the temperature?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I was going to recommend is that because I have a lot of batter here, probably more than we need for an 8-inch pan, you can scale up to a 9-inch and it's actually going to bake off a lot faster. There's going to be a greater surface area, and so it's going to go from maybe baking for an hour down to like 45 minutes. So if you are adjusting your pan size, you do just want to be mindful of the amount of time that you are putting the cake in for. So,
And if I wanted to do this in an 9 by 13, could I do it in like a big cake
Yeah.
pan too?
absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely. This batter's super versatile. You can use it for cupcakes, anything like that. So all I did was I sprayed with a nonstick spray. If you want to go above and beyond, you can take some really soft butter and you can work it around the pan, and that would be another option as well. Not necessary though, it's so much faster to do it this way.
Oh, I'm sure. I
Yeah.
did parchment rounds recently too.
Yes, parchment rounds on the bottom. Oh my gosh, that's guaranteed to not stick your cake to the
It was
bottom.
great. It worked really well.
So all I'm doing here is I'm just putting a little bit of flour at the base of the pan that's been coated.
So much more than I would usually use. This is great to know.
Right.
Yeah.
So I usually just put a lot in because I'm gonna end up tapping it all out, but it's easier then to get it fully coated with a lot of flour and then kind of transfer it into your next pan. I always really tap out that excess flour. So this is what you're looking for.
This is what they forget to do on Nailed It all the time. They always forget this part on Nailed It.
Well, right, and this is like one of the most important parts, because the last thing that you want is to go through all this trouble of making a beautiful cake and then it to stick in your pan.
It's so
and it's
sad.
like, it's devastating. So do whatever you can to ensure that your pans are super, super set for. Yes, question, go.
I was just, so you've been mentioning Nailed It, Lindsay.
Yes.
And I'm just curious, Chef, do you watch shows like The Great British Baking
Oh my God,
Show?
I
Do you get
love-
inspiration from them?
Oh, I absolutely do. I wish that I could go on the Great British Bake Off, but I can't because I worked in a professional kitchen. Boo-hoo. But
I forgot about that rule, but that's totally a
know.
rule. Yeah.
But I love these shows that are so encouraging. Like that to me, it's like everyone's just so excited to just create these things together, you know? And it's like that the judges are nice and encouraging and friendly, and that's the type of show that I love. I don't like the cutthroat shows that are like, you know, Gordon Ramsay, where they're demeaning. It's like, this is a fun thing. It should be real fun. And okay, so I just divided up our batter. It ended up being about 980 grams to 1,000 grams per cake pan. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna smack the pan to let out any air bubbles, let those rise to the surface, and then they're set to go. So these will go into an oven at 325 degrees. When I'm baking a cake, I want a lower temperature. So a lot of times when you're baking, 350 is a kind of that common temperature that you think of. Reduce that temperature and do it low and do it longer. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna prevent that cake from rising up quickly and creating a dome. Once you create a dome, that's all wasted cake. You're cutting it off because when you go to assemble a cake, you want it nice and leveled, so you have to cut off that dome in the end. And so the lower that you have the temperature, the slower it's kind of gonna rise up. And it's also gonna help with any like air pockets that would develop. If it rises up too quickly, it's gonna have air pockets inside, which you don't want. How is our oven doing right now?
I don't.
It has a handicap, but we can use it.
We can use it. Should we throw them in?
Just put it in. I'll work it for you.
That's fantastic. You'll work the magic.
It has preferences.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, so that was, it's gonna be our like longest process here. It's gonna have us move on to our Parisian cream. So our Parisian cream, pretty typical for a German chocolate cake is to do like a chantilly cream or just like a nice, you're doing like a whipped cream, you're adding a little powdered sugar or some type of sugar. Some people might add a little granulated as well. And then a little vanilla for flavor. That's pretty basic for this cake, for a lot of other whipped cream fillings. However, it's not as stable, and so it's harder to work with because it definitely can become weepy really quickly. And so a wonderful thing that we have been doing at Sourdough for a long time is stabilizing our whipped cream base with white chocolate. And that added fat of the white chocolate and the cocoa butter really strengthens that cream base, and it adds so much wonderful flavor too. It just makes it really nice and sweet. But it is a process, and so again, I don't know the science behind it, and I wish I could share that with you, but there is something about that cocoa butter in the white chocolate that binds with the cream, and it needs to bind over time. And so the longer that you let this Parisian cream sit in your fridge, 3 days, 4 days, the like stronger it's gonna be when you're working with it. Okay, so you definitely can't do this the day of. It's not gonna work. You whip this up if you were to make it the day of, and you think, okay, I'm gonna let it chill. It's gonna have at least 5 or 8 hours to chill. It should be fine, right? You go to whip it up, and it's gonna separate, and it's gonna separate like butter and buttermilk almost. That's kind of the type of separation.
Sounds like you have done this, and this has happened to you.
I have done this. I have done this.
You're like, just sounds like
I have done this far too many times.
Like, it'll be
and I
fine.
know.
That's like the kind of thing I would do too. Like, oh, it'll be fine.
It's like I'm going to do a quick chill on it. I'm going to put it over ice, and then I'm going to let it sit for as long as possible in the fridge, and it still does not work. Okay, so I am using a saucepan here, and so because this is my vessel that I'm using, I'm just going to scale everything directly into this.
Fewer bowls.
Fewer bowls, fewer mess. Yeah, absolutely.
Less mess.
Absolutely. And so I'm gonna put our sugar in. We have 65 grams, not a lot. Again, you're getting your sweetness from that white chocolate. If you could see this right now, you would see that the cream is come to a boil. And so the sugar is completely dissolved into the cream. It was a small amount of sugar dissolved into the cream. It's come to a boil, which is an indicator that it's going to be hot enough to add this chocolate. When I go to add the chocolate, which I haven't scaled out yet, but quickly will here, I'm doing 95 grams. And I'm a little over. and I was gonna put it in, but I'm gonna try to be precise for you.
I kind of love that though. It makes me feel like there is a little more leeway. Like we can.
There actually is.
is
There actually
Right.
is.
It isn't
There
nice.
is,
reassuring.
there
think so
is,
too.
and there is for cake. I feel like now at Sourdough we used to do a lot of French pastries.
Yes.
There isn't quite as much leeway when you are doing certain things for French pastries. You kind of want to be pretty precise with your measurements there. What I do here is I would take this, I'd maybe do an ice bath on it, and so I would put it in a container, let it sit on, out on the counter until it chills a little bit at home. And then I would put it covered into your refrigerator for, again, minimum of 24 hours.
So would you ice bath? Like, see, an ice bath is like the kind of thing that we used to do, like when I worked at a cafe, and you have to be like hot food's hot, cold food's
Right,
cold,
right,
like
right.
health.
Yeah.
But at home, I'm lazy, and I would just like let it cool down a little bit and then put it in the fridge. Is that?
Yeah, you can totally do that. I just get cautious with dairy. So I'm in the
That's fair,
mindset
yeah.
of like food safe from work, and
Yes,
so I
okay,
say,
yeah.
you know what, if I were to let this like cool fully before it goes into the fridge, it's out for like maybe 3 or 4 hours.
Oh,
Like
goodness,
this
okay,
is a small amount, so it's not. And if I needed it to chill fast, I would put it in like a thin pan or a big pan and let it thin out so the surface area allows it to cool faster.
okay.
Anyways, but yeah, I do add a little ice. It just makes the process go so much faster. Okay, so I'm actually gonna put these cakes away. I'm not gonna use
sorry.
them quite yet.
Yeah.
I need to go on to the cherry filling. So we are going to whip that up real quick. And
So the
Yeah.
cherry filling, you have dark tart or a combination of cherries.
yes.
I like to buy like the frozen Montmorency cherries from Door County, like just like packed Montmorency. They're
That's what these
so-
are.
Oh my gosh, they're so
amazing.
good.
I actually have a little combo.
But I get them
of
from like
cherries.
we get Door County ones and just like I keep them in my chest freezer
Yes.
for like things like this. Yeah.
Do because the classic one calls for like sour tart cherries. I say it doesn't make a huge difference if you use other ones, but I've made this cake with black sweet cherries. It's turned
yeah.
out just fine. The cake itself is so rich that it's just like added richness with those dark cherries. But Montmorency is amazing. They're so tart, and they're just such an elevated flavor, and that's what you want. And so making this cake at this time of year, cherries are not in season. We're totally past. So, I mean, like nothing is in season in Wisconsin,
To be
right?
fair, cherries are in season for like a hot second.
They
like-
are. They are for such a hot second. So, we're super lucky because we're close enough to Door County, where
yeah.
in a lot of our markets around here, if you do want to get good frozen cherries, you can totally go out and get some Montmorency cherries, giving you that really nice tart, bright red cherry, which is what you want. I don't want to spill all over you. Okay, so I'm looking for about 600 grams. And these are a bit soupy. Oh my gosh, this is
I was
totally
gonna say,
not
does it matter
kosher,
if
right?
you have the juice in there or not? Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so typically when I've made this before, my cherries are frozen, right? And so they won't have the juice. The juice has, these cherries have thawed out a bit, just in my prep. Okay, so I have my sugar. I'm adding some sugar to these cherries here. And we are putting in 100 grams.
Does it matter, like if you have the tart cherries, would you add a little bit more sugar? If you have like a sweet cherry, do you add less? Like do you?
Yeah. So I've made this recipe with a lot of different cherries. To be honest, it's not a lot of sugar in here. It's not going to be a super sweet filling.
Okay.
But you can add, if you do like a really sweet, like jammy filling, you definitely go ahead and add some more sugar to that filling. But I don't feel like it's a huge difference if you're with the cherries. It's, you have your tart cherries. Sure, you might You could add a little bit more, but it's not, yeah, it's not gonna make a huge difference.
Got it, okay. Good to know.
So this process here with, if you're using frozen cherries, if you're using fresh cherries, your sugar is gonna start to dissolve. Your cherries are gonna start to kind of like break apart and juice up, so they're releasing their juices. And so I'm just encouraging them to release their juices by just like purposefully, like almost like punching them. Smushing them.
You said potato masher would
yeah,
work,
so
right?
potato masher. Potato masher is great. We don't have one at Sourdough. And so I didn't bring one with today, but definitely go ahead and get a potato masher. My spatula here isn't the best because it's flimsy, so a better utensil would be like a wooden spoon that's really hard. But this is gonna cook for about 6 minutes. And that's really going to release all of those juices. And you want as many juices out as possible because this is going to be, those juices are going to be your syrup that you are going to syrup your layers of cake with. Okay.
Got it, yeah.
So I'm going to just, for the sake of it, pretend like this here is done. Is that okay with
fine,
you?
yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually kind of going to be what it looks like. Because my cherries were thawed, all that juice has separated. It looks like my sugar is pretty much dissolved in here just from that short time on the induction burner. And all I'm doing now at this point is, sorry, get my flour out of my strainer here, is to strain out that liquid. And so,
They're so pretty.
yeah, beautiful.
Color is so gorgeous.
And they smell just so amazing. They're so fantastic. We are making a bûche de Noël at work, Yule log, and we're using these wonderful Door County cherries. So I'm putting my meaty part of the cherries back in the saucepan, that cherry meat. And here, this is that cherry and sugar mixture. It's your syrup that's going to be for syruping the layers of your cake. So I'm gonna do one more quick thing here. To finish off these cherries, we want to thicken them up. So right now they're super loose. The juice that is still kind of remaining there is it's gonna ooze out when you're assembling your cake. So you really need to thicken them up like you would a jam. And so I'm just taking out about a tablespoon of my syrup, and I'm gonna add. Oh, I actually needed this. I needed this. No. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of cornstarch, and so this is going to be my thickening agent.
This reminds me of making stir fries, like when you have to like.
Oh gosh, yeah,
mix the cornstarch into the to make it
slurry. So you are making a slurry. You would never want to add cornstarch directly to your fruit, whatever you're working with. You need to make yourself a slurry and make sure that all of that cornstarch is really well dissolved into that cherry juice before adding it here. So the process here, you need to be really cautious when you're boiling up these fruits with that cornstarch. It's gonna spit back at you, and the worst thing that you could do is like have a really like sugary hot splash of like jam juice on you. I mean, it just like sits on your skin. It's really not good. So be very careful. Stand back a distance. Put on. Yeah, I have burns everywhere, right? So stand back a little and just know that like right now it's just like super soupy. It's gonna take like you know, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes for that cornstarch to be activated and really start to thicken up. So I'm constantly stirring. I'm not walking away from it at this point. And this syrup here is going to be going on our layers of cake. And first, we need to add the most important thing, which is that cherry brandy. And that's going to add so much wonderful flavor to every layer of cake. Yeah.
Kirsch
Yeah.
is eau de vie, right?
Mhm,
Which is like a fruit brandy. And I first learned about it at Fromagination when we were doing the fondue that they do during the wintertime, because Kirsch like goes with that.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to support American-made products or just an amazing distillery, Clear Creek out in
Oh,
Oregon
nice.
makes gorgeous eau de vie. And I really love their fruit brandies. So
That's awesome.
just a
I'll have to
plug
go
for Clear
try
Creek.
it.
They're awesome. I think they have a lot of them at Steve's.
Steve's Liquor. Yeah. Very cool. Okay, 2 things that I realized. I forgot one thing for that, for this here filling, and that is almond extract. Almond pair so well with cherries, and that's because the pit of the cherry itself, it is just this earthy almondy flavor. And so just like I added coffee to our cake to heighten that chocolate flavor, I'm gonna add a little bit of almond extract to this cherry filling to heighten that cherry flavor. So I would say without the extract, it's actually it's a little bit of a blasé filling, but this extract really really heightens all that flavor. So don't forget the extract. You won't be quite as happy with it. I always trim my cake, so even though this isn't really domed, it's pretty level, I don't have a lot to trim off, but I do like trimming off that top layer because I like to expose that really soft sponge that's inside. Sometimes on top it can be a bit crispy when baking, and you don't want to serve a cake where it has this edge piece that's just super crispy and hard. Sometimes it won't get soft. Sometimes it will get soft. That Parisian cream can maybe add some moisture and soften those hard edges, but other times it won't, and so I trim it off. Cake scraps are fantastic. Munch on this while you're working. They are so good. I'm gonna set them there.
This is why I loved that my mom made wedding cakes when I was growing up.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and so like we as kids got like the little scraps off the top and the stuff like on the sides
Right.
usually too.
Right.
Because
It's
she wants
so
it to be
good.
perfectly smooth.
Yes.
And we
Yeah,
would
yeah,
just
yeah.
like hover. you
Yeah.
know? Cake scraps.
So this is going to be a 4-layer cake. So I'm going to be cutting both of these cakes in half. And I just want to show you guys right now the way that I'm cutting. I'm using a large, long serrated knife. And I am keeping the knife in about one position. Can you guys see over there? Is the KitchenAid blocking a bit? Here you can. So the importance of this is that if you're trying to cut this cake in half and you want it to be really nice and level, the last thing that you want to do is move this knife through the cake. It's going to be really jagged and whatnot. You're not going to get a level slice. So you want to keep the knife. You want to find where it's going to be kind of that nice and half cutting in half, whatever. I can't. Too many words at this point. But what I'm doing is it's in the middle now, and I am just turning the cake around as I'm using a sawing motion with my knife. And it's making its way through the center. It's just about there, and now I can feel it's completely cut through. I'm gonna grab my Parisian cream, and we're gonna get that whipping as we simple syrup all of our, yes, thank you, as we simple syrup our layers. So
It has a little water in the bottom. Is that okay or no?
let's see here. Just gonna do this.
Thank you, good, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna add this whole thing.
Oh, yeah, it's nice and thick.
Really nice and thick, yes. In comparison to what we made.
Yeah, it has not thickened up yet, the
Yeah,
other one.
so you can see. Let me see how thick it is here. Yeah.
Looks like like melted ice cream.
Yeah,
or
definitely.
like
Melted
really
ice cream
rich
for sure.
eggnog. Not flaxseed eggnog. The real
Not
eggnog.
at all.
So I use the paddle. Yeah, I use the paddle attachment when I was creaming my sugar and making the cake base. This here, I want to aerate all of that Parisian cream. I'm adding air to it, so I am using the balloon attachment. And we're gonna get this going pretty fast, so I'm doing like a medium-high speed.
So stiff peak is gonna hold, right?
Yeah, so-
Medium is gonna droop a little bit.
So this is definitely like a very stiff peak, which is good because when you are working with a cake like this and you want it to have some sharp edges, you want it to hold up really well, and you don't want any of the layers to be droopy or weepy, you do need it to be stiff. But you let it go a little bit too long and it's going to start to separate. So that's when you have to be really careful when you're whipping this. So here, if you just want to take a peek, this is what it looks like. It's so pillowy and so creamy. It's very wonderful, very luscious. That's set to go. I'm gonna just give a quick, I'm taking a brush here.
This is the syrup that you made
Pastry brush.
before.
This is the syrup I made. I added the 2 tablespoons of kirsch, which you don't have to add. And I added that to the cherry syrup. And I'm just brushing this in here. So,
And it's gonna soak up. I feel like
it's
I've
soaking
done
up for sure. Yeah,
certain
yeah.
kinds of cake, like tres leches. You like
Oh
put,
my gosh,
you know,
yeah. You put so much there.
yeah, but you
Yeah.
like put little holes in it
Yep.
to like help it. I've done that with olive oil cake too, where like you're like, oh, you're gonna do like a grapefruit glaze or something
Yeah.
like that, and you like
Yep.
drizzle the glaze over and let it sink in. But this, you're just glazing the top.
You're just brushing the top. And so you can see it start to puddle a little bit, like in the center here. That's when you know you're kind of done. You don't really need much more. But maybe around the edges, I'm going to add a little bit more. This has so much flavor, and it's going to add so much flavor to the cake. So I do kind of want to add as much as I can. But I'm going to say that's good. So if you have a lot left, go ahead and enjoy it. Like honestly, like make a cocktail or something, or add it to like a seltzer water or something. It's just so good. It's just cherry juice, a little sugar, and that brandy liqueur. Don't throw it away. The utensils are a little dirty at this point, but all I'm doing is I am filling my spatula with just kind of a big glob of that Parisian cream, and I am going to add a glob onto each of the tops of the cake.
We want to make sure that we can see this.
Yeah, can you see here? What are things I could move?
Okay. Yeah, all right.
Anything here?
Good?
Yeah, I want you guys to see this because assembling a cake can seem really challenging, and it doesn't have to be. Can you see with the KitchenAid? Should we move that for you?
I think it's okay.
Are you,
It
you
feels
guys
like
can
the cake
see down
itself
there?
is maybe blocking.
Okay.
Yeah, can we move? There we go. Look at
That's
that. Yeah, I'm happy to move the cake.
That's
itself. Yeah, we're
awesome.
good. Okay. Yeah, this looks good.
That's great. So let's see here. I'm going to designate one of these layers as my top layer. Okay, so I'm just going to spread around that cream so it's a nice kind of even smear for the top.
Kessenich has wonderful offset spatulas in
Yes.
many sizes. I
Get
checked.
yourself an offset spatula. They're not expensive, and they're going to make constructing a cake just so much easier. Okay, so for these other three, I am looking for a really nice thin layer of Parisian cream. And I am, however, wanting to create like a well and a trim around the exterior here so that my cherry filling sits in, and I have a bit of a lip of Parisian cream.
To keep it
okay,
in.
right? So that helps to keep the cherry filling in and from seeping out. And if you don't have enough of a lip, you are running the risk of that jam coming out, and then it's going to be really, it might shift a lot because it's sitting on kind of this really wet jam and it's not as stable. If you don't have one of these at home, which not a lot of people do, and you don't need one, get a gallon Ziploc bag and find the corner of the bag and put, I have a piping tip. I'm gonna make rosettes on top, so I'm just gonna put this piping tip in, but you do not need a piping tip at all. You're just gonna cut yourself, fill up your bag with Parisian cream first, then you're gonna cut yourself a hole, and I'm gonna just show you what it looks like to pipe a rim to really ensure that that cherry stays on. So all I'm doing here is just kind of imitating the look of that, but this is like really secure now, right? So it has like a really nice lip. Okay, so now I'm going to take my cherry filling and
It looks so good.
Wonderful.
The color is so
Right.
beautiful too.
So I'm kind of just spreading it out to that lip that we created. So it's like, say that's about like half an inch. I'm kind of bringing my cherry jam out to about half an inch.
It reminds me of meringue, like this.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah.
So festive.
Yeah.
It is. And again, that's why I chose this cake. It's just such a beautiful, it's like the Parisian cream almost reminds me of like snow. It's so stark white, it's so pretty. And then again, I decorated it with some of that rosemary to resemble a little evergreen tree. Okay, so now I'm going to just start to stack them on top of each other. So if you were to have done what I just did, one on top of the other, you're just like really shaking that cake around, right? And it's just, you're running the risk of that cherry filling kind of oozing out, and then it becomes a mess. And so this is going to be a lot easier here. Beautiful, right? Already beautiful. You could serve it like this, and it would be just fine.
The first time you just put frosting on one of the things, I'm like, I'll take that.
I'll take that,
like,
right?
I'll buy it.
So good.
Isn't there like a trend now to have like exposed side cakes?
Oh, for sure.
I feel like
so
it is.
this is like,
Wow.
this is called a naked cake.
Naked cake.
It's naked. Don't look at it. It's naked. So it this is exposing all of
If Lindsay ever opens
all of
up
the
like a
cake.
bakery, it should be called
Yeah.
Get Naked.
Get
All
Naked,
it is like
Naked
naked
cakes.
dessert. Yes.
so we're actually going to, because we're we don't have a ton of Parisian cream left. I could have had us use a little bit more. Anyways, this cake's really tall. It requires quite a bit to cover it. So I am actually going to use a semi-naked exterior on this. And so
I love shortcuts.
love
Some more
shortcuts.
Christmas ales. Semi-naked.
Yeah. Semi-naked cake. But the reason I feel really comfortable doing that as well is because I have some decorative bark, or you have chocolate shavings to go around the exterior. So you can't even see what's under that chocolate bark
Sure.
right now. You wouldn't know if it's semi-naked or not. And another great reason to decorate the exterior of your cake with nuts or that, chocolate shavings is because then you don't have to really finagle and finesse that exterior. You're not really having to get it perfect. you're looking to just fill in any gaps. And so I'm just gathering any Parisian cream on the back of my offset spatula, and I'm working it into the cake. I'm keeping my offset spatula in like one place, right? And I am moving the turntable as I go.
I love that when we were talking about like what to do to like top the cake and to, you know,
for sure.
we were talking as earlier about tempering chocolate, and Chris was like, "What is this?" And I
Yeah.
was like, "It's complicated. No one's gonna do this. It's a lot."
Crazy, right?
But you can shave chocolate too, right?
Oh, for sure.
And so he had us put in the recipe like more difficult, less difficult.
Yep, for
And
sure.
I was like,
love
correct.
those.
I love it because I want to know stuff like that too, where I can be like, I'm just gonna like throw some chocolate chips at it. And, like,
Yeah,
call it
yeah,
good,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
whatever. Like, what at this point you can do, I think, a lot. However you want it to look. You know,
Right,
you can
for
spend
sure,
more or less
for
time
sure.
because we're not on the Great British
Yeah,
Baking Show.
we are. No. And you could leave it just like as is and throw a couple cherries on top, right? I am doing a pretty lousy job covering this right now. This is not what your cake would look like if you got it from Madison Sourdough. But just because I'm a little short on Parisian cream.
Do you really make 20 cakes a day?
Yeah, we make a lot of cakes, and
Oh
so
my
I do
gosh.
like all the wedding cakes as well. I love it so much. I feel so fortunate.
We have gone like it's like a thing now that we only buy like people's birthday cakes from Madison Sourdough.
well, it's
That
really
birthday
fun.
cake is so good.
So
There's a birthday cake thing?
Yeah, like is it called birthday cake or is it
The funfetti. The
Funfetti.
funfetti.
Oh.
You love the
It is
funfetti.
so good.
I love the raspberry jam and the funfetti.
Oh.
It's so good. Okay, so offset spatula, fantastic. Bench scraper, even more
My love.
fantastic.
My favorite thing.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
just like it takes your cake from like kind of rustic looking to like really smooth and beautiful.
And earlier this year, Andrew Kroger showed us how to do pasta with a. And I think Francesco used it too. Everybody uses bench scraper.
Oh,
They're
yeah, you
amazing.
need one.
Cookie
You
with the
need
Cap
one,
Times
yeah.
loves the
A bench scraper.
scraper.
Like it is like my mascot is a little bench scraper.
Yeah.
Yeah, to make the gnocchi. Yes.
So
yes.
this offset spatula here, I am just
This still looks so beautiful to me.
Honestly,
right.
yeah.
Okay, so when I look at this cake right now, I think it's like a crumb coat, right? So I have some crumbs in here and stuff, and a bit anal retentive when it comes to how my cakes look. So I'm just like, this is not okay.
And we're
you
like,
know?
it's beautiful.
And it's beautiful, right? But I would like say, okay, this is a crumb coat, and now I need some more Parisian cream to actually cover it with. But I'm reminding myself right now, we have so many beautiful things to doctor the cake up with. And so
Yes.
that's why this cake is so easy, because you could smear on that Parisian cream. Don't worry about making it look nice. Get it on the cake, and then let's work on decorating it.
Speaking of which, I'm going to bring you
Yes.
these.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Woo. Okay, we have like a tray of
Okay,
decorations,
We have
friends.
a tray of decorations, and that's great. Thank you.
I don't want to like set it. Yeah.
I will take off this beautiful covering here. Okay, so you are getting to witness my really fast tempering that I did, and it worked out really well. It worked out so well.
Snap.
Yeah, it snaps. Ready? Could you hear that?
It's like the candy bar snap. Like
It's so wonderful.
every time Claire Savas had to make candy bars on
Yeah.
that Bon Appetit series, you know, she had to temper chocolate. And
Yeah.
she complained about it every single time.
It's so complaint-worthy, right? It's awful. So what I would do, I'm not going to temper it for you guys right now. Go online, educate yourself on tempering, but don't do it. Like, it's not worth it. Like, there's things out there right now. I think it's Ghirardelli makes it, and it's like pre-tempered chocolate. I think they like add a certain amount of like cocoa powder or oil or something. So you melt it, and you melt it per the instructions on the package, right? And it will turn out perfect every time. So I think
That's cool.
Jenny Street Market might have
They have a lot of baking stuff
right? They
there,
do have
yeah.
a lot of good baking things. go get yourself that. Don't worry about tempering. What I will say, if you were to temper, really quick at home, take your chocolate bits and reserve. Okay, so now at this point, I'm just gonna go really rustic with this.
Do it. I like it.
Really rustic. So,
I have no idea what time it is, but I'm sure we are over
you
time.
guys, I'm so sorry. Can we be like, we're 2 hours? Oh my God.
An hour over. We're making cake, you guys.
Speed up this end part.
We're
I've
speeding
already
it
thanked
up.
people online for hanging out with us a bit longer.
Holy
That's
cow.
cool.
Then
I was like, I
Norms.
have a sense of it, but I don't really
It's the holidays. It's like trying to say goodbye at Christmas. It's
Oh
an
my
extra hour
gosh.
later, and then you're still there. Another
Wisconsin
beer.
goodbye in cake form.
Yeah.
talk a lot. That's
It's okay.
so bad. Thank you so much for hanging in there, everyone. Thank you. Okay, so I am making it look really rustic, and I am actually just adding some texture. And
This is cool.
right. I
Like,
love
yeah.
it. I love it so much. And this is the really fun part of decorating a cake, I think.
So it doesn't matter if they're all the same length. They're like different
You know,
lengths
I
here.
actually
Yeah.
want them to look different, right? I want it to like look really rustic and like a tree stump and the bark on a tree, right? So, well, that's not what I wanted, but.
So when you're doing this at Madison Sourdough, this is my question. When
Yeah,
you're doing
yeah,
this at Madison Sourdough and you're breaking off the little bits at the end,
Right.
what do you do with the little bits? Like, do you just take them home? Right?
Do you eat them as a snack?
Do you just
Yes.
snack them?
Yes. We snack a lot. You know what the great thing about chocolate is you remelt it down.
Right.
So, right? So things like that.
Okay.
Just remelt it.
That's
Remelt it.
resourceful.
Yeah, that's super resourceful, right?
It's going green here on Cooking with the Cat Times.
No food waste. We don't do food waste.
Bark.
But yeah, go ahead and munch on it too. It's totally great.
Munch.
You have to munch.
We like to munch here at Cooking with the Cat Times.
And we're getting punchy.
Oh, we got a question. Laura,
Yay!
will finished cake need to be kept in the refrigerator?
Yes.
Good question.
Yes. So a cake that is all buttercream base does not have to be refrigerated. That butter is really stable. What I will say is anything that's like a Parisian cream that has a lot of dairy in it has to be refrigerated. It has to.
And how long will it keep for? Would you recommend? Safety.
Right. I would say you could keep your cake for several days. I would say like 3 to 5 days in a refrigerator. Now, the second that you let it come out of onto like, say you were to display it for like 4 hours or something, then you've kind of killed that time if it's been at room temperature for a long amount of time.
Right.
And so just be mindful, like if you're having it at home for several days and you know you want it to last, like pull out what you want and then put it back in the fridge and keep it in the fridge there.
Do you have to also have it covered in the fridge?
Cover it. Any cream-based thing will absorb all those scents and odors from your fridge. And so you're going to have a really stinky tasting cake.
Okay, after all this work, you do not want
Yeah.
a sticky cake.
Okay, so before I actually put on my rosettes, I'm just going to...
Use the chocolate shavings
do
that
some
we also
chocolate
tell you how to do in the
shavings,
recipe,
and
right? You
so-
can like use a peeler
Yeah,
thing
use
or...
a peeler, use a food, a vegetable peeler on a semi-melted bar of chocolate. And I'm just going to do this here. This is also not necessary, but I love that added texture on top. Love
Oh,
these
so
little
pretty.
curls. And now I'm going to go around and I'm just going to do little rosettes on top of the cake. And these rosettes are just going to be for elevation for those cherries, right? So I really want to kind of make that for like a showpiece of the cherries. And beautiful cherries, so hard to find. I randomly ran into a Pick and Save, which I never go to, but they had cherries, which is so great. So if you need cherries, they're Pick and Save. Gosh, this is just beautiful. Okay, sugared.
I wish I was that confident after work of just like, this is perfect and beautiful. That is inspiring right there. Like that.
It's so
Because
pretty.
it truly is.
Yeah,
gorgeous.
it's so pretty. Decorate with just these little sprigs however you want. I love that greenery.
Can you tell us how you make the
For
sugar
sure, for sure.
rosemary?
You can do sugared rosemary a couple ways. You could take egg whites and you could water down some egg whites and you would put your sprig into that kind of liquid combination there. Or you could use simple syrup, which is equal parts sugar and water boiled up. And you dip your rosemary sprigs into that liquid. I shake it off really well. I'll sometimes take like a cloth or a paper napkin or something, and I'll get all that excess wetness off as much as I can before dipping it into the sugar. If you have too much liquid, it's just going to be super messy, and there's going to be clumps of sugar on there. Okay.
It also looks like a larger crystal sugar, so like a
Yeah.
turbinado or something like that with like a big crystal.
Actually not. So this is,
Oh.
are you referring to this? This is
Yeah.
granulated. So,
Oh, it is really?
it
It looks
is.
bigger.
No, it looks bigger because I didn't do a great job taking off all that excess liquid, right? So it would look finer if I really shook out a lot of that rosemary.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
that liquid.
that actually explains it. Okay.
Okay, so this is
I just
it.
assumed. I was like, it's a really, really large crystal.
There we have it. She's
Yay!
beautiful. 2 hours later, you guys
Oh my
survived.
God, only 2 hours.
Only 2 hours. My goodness. Everyone at home, thank you. You don't even get a slice of cake.
Yeah.
I hope you're rewarded with the cake that you make at home. And come into Madison Sourdough if you're local, because I'm going to have this cake in January.
Oh.
So, and if you tell me that you were there for a full 2 hours, I will maybe treat you to a slice of cake.
Yes, this is a great deal.
This is a great deal.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's it.
Yay! We just want to thank our sponsor. I mean, we can't. I mean, this is amazing. 2 hours later, no big deal, you guys. We had a lot of people hanging out with us the whole time.
Nice.
So
Thank
you
you.
guys all
Thank
for
you, thank you.
tuning in. Because the lucky in-person audience does get to now taste it.
Yes.
If you'd like to join us in person in the future, become a Cap Times member at membership.captimes.com, and you'll get a special invite. Or follow us on Instagram, and you could win your way in to an in-person showing. We'll be back in January.
We will.
What a year it's been.
Yes,
Yay.
it's been amazing.
This
So
first year.
I believe Sean Farr is our next chef
Oh,
in
that's
January, I
exciting.
think, from Mintmark,
Yay.
which is actually where I always go after these.
The official after
Every
party
single
spot
time, like, yeah.
of Cooking with the Cap
Good.
Times.
Yeah.
Also, I want to plug you. When is your book coming out?
My book comes out on
21st?
Tuesday. Yeah.
Congrats.
Yay!
I'm going to get it as a holiday gift for everyone. It's really
There's-
exciting.
there's an event at
Congratulations.
Leopold?
Yeah.
Leopold's on
Tuesday?
Tuesday. Yeah. It's going to be really fun.
Congrats. That's awesome. Very
Before
exciting.
we sign off tonight, we just want to thank our sponsors once more. We have our presenting sponsor, Provision Market at Pasquale's Cantina on East Wash. Stop by, newly opened, get some holiday gifts, Packers Super Bowl party gifts, all those things. We also want to thank Kessenich, where we are tonight. It's our official kitchen sponsor. And we want to thank our official beer sponsor tonight this month is Breckenridge Brewery, a Christmas ale, very festive holiday drink. Thank you guys, and thank you, Lindsay and
Thank you,
Liz.
everybody.
Thank
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking it out.
thank
you
you.
guys.
Have a good night, you guys.
Thank you.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Wow.
Amazing.
There's
Wow,
gold
wow,
leaf on
wow.
these cherries, you guys.